This is where many people with narcissistic patterns misinterpret their own experience. They blame the stress of the holidays, the chaos of the gatherings, the noise, the kids, and the obligations. But what's actually being threatened is the internal structure they depend on, the psychic retreat that has kept their vulnerability at bay. The retreat was never a sign of not caring. It was a sign of protecting the fragile self, protecting against humiliation, protecting against the feeling of being unimportant, unseen, or too much, protecting against the anxiety around everyday disappointments and frustrations, and at a deeper level, protecting against the fear of fragmentation. That means falling apart, collapsing. And if and when you come out of the retreat, the fear is one of decompensation. The big problem with the holidays is now your family or the world asks for engagement, and the retreat is asked to loosen up. This is where the internal conflict now intensifies. See, before, when you were safely in your retreat, the conflict wasn't as intense. But now it intensifies because there's a demand. And this is where narcissistic defenses rise, not out of arrogance, but out of a terror of losing the only safe psychological space you have ever known. And so you go. You show up, but you don't go freely. You go feeling forced, feeling as though you've had to surrender something essential. Internally, it can feel like being pushed out of your carefully maintained rhythm, your sacred routine, your rituals of what? Self-regulation. You've been pulled away from the fortress of your safe haven, the inner place where you know exactly who you are and what keeps you nice and stable. If we play this scenario out a little bit further, can you imagine the next step? You arrive at the party or the family gathering in a state of what? Subtle depletion or heightened anxiety or heightened agitation, because you're feeling forced, by the way, right? You're already off balance when you arrive. You're already compromised, already managing an internal protest that sounds a little something like this. I don't want to be at this stupid or annoying family celebration. Or, I'm not ready for this. I shouldn't have to do this. This space is too unpredictable, too chaotic, or too demanding. You walk into the room carrying that mix of resentment, anxiety, and a little disorientation. Again, not because you don't care, but because your internal scaffolding has been disrupted. Your usual ways of maintaining your equilibrium have temporarily dismantled, and now you're required to interact, to perform, to be present, to be social, to be competent. And what happens next? Every interpersonal cue, a comment, a glance, a question, a neutral joke now lands on an unprotected self. You're more reactive, more easily injured, more prone to misinterpretation. You may feel suddenly misunderstood, criticized, unseen, not heard, not sufficiently paid attention to. I could keep going, but you get the point. These are all the things that are held at bay by the retreat. These feelings and reactions are not character flaws. They are the mind's desperate attempt to rebuild a protective shield in real time when you're actually at the gathering, at the party, with your family. Because once you feel this way, what do you do next? You may become quieter, more distant, or more controlling, or even more grandiose. And this is where the classical narcissistic defenses everyone talks about become visible. Lack of empathy, withdrawal, aloofness, forced charm, subtle hostility, or an exaggerated sense of confidence. The mind is scrambling to recreate the conditions of the retreat, conditions where you don't have to feel overwhelmed, anxious, abandoned, or exposed. And just to be very clear, yes, I'm suggesting that all of these classical narcissistic defenses that I just named can become part of the psychic retreat. But the problem is, the more you withdraw internally, the more disconnected you feel externally. And this only intensifies the sense that you don't belong there, or that you're misunderstood, or you're feeling excluded and left out, all alone. These are feelings, very painful feelings that I typically hear. This is the emotional narcissistic conflict of the holidays. And this is exactly where so much can go wrong, where misunderstandings happen, where shame flares, where envy intensifies, where small comments land like attacks, and where you can either shut down, lash out, or become overly compliant to survive the moment. We're going to pause here for today, but I hope this gave you a new way of understanding what actually happens inside of you during this season, not from a place of blame or judgment, but from compassion and curiosity. If you would like to hear more about what happens after you've been pulled out of your retreat into real contact, let me know. Shoot me a message. I can walk you through a very few common holiday scenarios so you can start recognizing the internal shifts. They're so subtle, but if we go through specific examples, I think you'll begin to see these subtle shifts that may be happening. And this way you can begin to get some control over them. Despite everything we've talked about today, the pressure, the complexity, the pressure to come out of the psychic retreat, I generally hope that you can find moments of relief, connection, or even small pockets of enjoyment this holiday season. Sometimes it's not about feeling good or wonderful. Sometimes it's about suffering just a little bit less, staying a little bit more present, or noticing one moment where you did not retreat. And these moments, they matter. They're signs of an internal shift already beginning to take place.